Welcome to SC Awards 2026. I'm Mike Shema. Joining me today is Mark Wojtasiak, SVP of Product Research and Strategy at Vectra AI. Mark, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
And one of the things we want to do is get to know all of the SC Awards finalists. And Vectra, we'd love to know because there's AI in the title there. There's AI all over the world here, but I think you're a bit more special than that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for actually for being a finalist. It's an honor, and we're super passionate about what we do. So I'm looking forward to the conversation we're having.
This is good. And one of the things is what customers come to you for. What are you helping them solve? What problems do they have?
Oh gosh, the fundamental, many different use cases. I don't want to list out all the things we can do, but it's a fundamental problem that we're trying to solve, to help customers solve for, is especially in the era of AI and sprawling enterprises that we would call the hybrid enterprise. It's on-prem, it's in the cloud, it's got OT, IoT mixed in there. We call that one massive network. And the core challenge or problem that we're trying to solve for customers is who or what is on my network right now and what are they doing, right? And is what they are doing present risk to the organization? Right, so start there, and then you can take that kind of premise and begin to branch it off into different use cases or different ways of using Vectra AI.
And it's funny because I was joking about agents and agentics all over the place, but what you listed, you listed a few things that well predate by decades what we call AI these days, and that concern that you just described. It also, I think, predates AI, predates agents. So these are common problems they've had. So why are people still struggling with that, though? How come we didn't solve this?
I think that we often, I have my opinions on the network and network security. I think if you look over the course of the last 20, it's still a fundamental problem today. I fundamentally don't know who or what's on my network, and that's been amplified by there's AI agents running on the network now. There's machine identities, there's human identities, there's artificial insiders, another acronym for AI, on the network. And I think the challenge is somewhere along the way, as the industry and the market shifted, everything used to be about the network, right? And then there was this mobile workforce, and endpoints grew, and identity grew, cloud security, and we have all of these kind of siloed ways of looking at security. I have cloud security, I have identity security, I have endpoint security, I still have network security that I've invested a lot of money in, but everything still happens on the network. And getting a true sense of understanding that, through kind of a unified view of that is really hard to do, right?
Well, that's what I want to ask about it. But before I get to my question, I appreciate you not just rattling off every single acronym that has come up across all those, the mobile, the network, the cloud, because, oh my gosh, I can't even keep them straight. But the problem does boil down to, I don't care what my vertical is or what my acronym is. I care what is going on my network. How do they get that unified view? Because I know we're not in the world of appliances anymore, but there's got to be some way to have that observability. What's your approach to doing that?
Well, we look at applying specific AI ML models to different domains. So the first thing we do is we try to understand how does an attacker or an attack manifest across the domains. And we focus on a specific problem, and then write models that go and solve that problem or address that problem. And in terms of how we go about doing that, we have a brain that sits on premises on the network there, and it kind of analyzes all of the behaviors happening on the network. But then we also have capabilities of pulling metadata down from cloud, multi-cloud areas, aggregating all that data in one place to understand, okay, there's this behavior happening, there's this behavior happening, call them threat events, if you will. But the magic comes when you can start to stitch those together to paint a picture of what's happening around an identity or an entity or a device. Like this plus this plus this plus this, add those together. This looks a lot like an attacker mimicking this profile. Or this looks like an insider who is abusing privilege or has observed privileges that they shouldn't have, right? And raising that up to the security analyst to take a look at.
And that's where another thing I'll say is I appreciate ML is That's what AI used to be called
Yeah,
before
yeah,
it
back
was
in the
so
day.
fun. So clearly it's solving problems though. ML has its applications, and to riff on that a little bit, you were describing either that malicious insider, but also potentially that's not even the human doing it. Somebody's downloaded OpenClaw. That's my go-to reference
Yeah,
today.
yeah.
Who knows what this Markdown file is doing? That's got to be worrisome. And so this, what you're describing, then it sounds like it can apply to the network. It's hard to hide from the network if you're trying to
Yeah,
to be malicious,
we
right?
often say this, the truth is on the network. The network doesn't lie. An attacker can't bypass a network. It's like they have two things. They have two things they want to do. They want to get on your network. They get an identity, and they want to get on your network. From there, they're going to blend in. They're going to do things that look normal, that looks like a normal activity or an event. The ability to use AI ML to understand what those behaviors are and chain them together to say, okay, this is indicative of something that we need to take a look at,
Yeah.
and raise it up to a human to take a look at. But you're right, it's the lines are getting blurrier and blurrier, and the network is like ever changing. So you have to have this continuous observability, and can AI do a lot of that work in the background so that it's raising the right alarms when something goes bad. But equally as important is, does it understand, based on what it's learned about attacker behavior or insider behavior, does it understand where exposure exists? So could it raise,
Okay.
instead of an alert on a threat and in your environment, which is important, critical, right? But there's also this: how do you use that analytics to shift, enable a human to be more proactive? And like, this exposure here, like, we don't have an endpoint agent on this device. How are we going to get visibility to this device? How are we going to get the visibility to this, identity or whatever it might be? And is that present exposure, risk exposure, right? That could be exploited by an attacker or an insider. Okay, what do I do to close that exposure?
See, it's definitely making me smile again because asset inventory. That's one of those things that's
I don't
also
know what's
very
on a
old.
network.
Yeah, exactly. And it's easy to say. I can drop as a consultant, Matt or Mark. Do you have a asset inventory? Do you know where everything is? And if you say no, which everybody says no, say, well, you should go get one. The go get one, that's
That's
good luck. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's you didn't help me at all. But it sounds like what you're describing, where's my exposure, is basically closing that gap in visibility, right?
100%, 100%.
Man.
Assets, identities, like, what is the asset now? What are you inventorying is another
Yes.
question. Like, what do you need to discover an inventory that's on your network? That's why we say who or what. It could be an identity. An identity could be a human or a machine or an agent or you name it. Or it could be an asset, a device, whatever it might be. It's like having that observability and understanding, and that is change. That will change every day, every hour of every day. So it isn't as much as like, I've taken my inventory. Here's the report. It's like, that's obsolete in about an
that
hour.
PDF went out. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So our customers today, again, going back a little bit to LLMs, but trying to be more general than that. Are they expressing their concerns and their threats in ways that sound familiar in the years that you've been here, or are they seeing new threats or things that are significantly changing about threats you might have been familiar with a year or 5 years ago?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like fundamentally, attackers or threats in general, whether it's an adversary, they come up with creative ways of doing things, but they typically follow a same pattern of things, right? A cyber kill chain or whatever it might be. We've seen the speed at which they operate increase. Why do attackers use AI? Same reason we all want to use it. It's like, I want to be more productive, more efficient. I want to be able to do what
They're
I can
on
do.
the clock, many
and,
of them.
And,
Yeah,
and they're like,
exactly.
and time is money to them as well. Yes, they'll fly low and slow in some cases, but we've seen the speed at which they can move increase dramatically. But we've also seen creative ways of seizing an identity, escalating their privileges, and then abusing Copilot or other LLMs inside an organization to ask questions, to do recon, to do some discovery, to find some hidden jewels, and then all of a sudden, they look like a normal employee doing normal things, but they're actually getting the keys to
very
the kingdom.
different living off the land type of attack. That's okay. Kudos to at least creativity. Sorry, it's on the attacker side of things, but yeah.
Yeah. So creatively, how do we
Human
solve
nature.
that, right?
Yeah,
How do we get ahead
exactly.
of that and think like they think? We always talk about, you got to think like an attacker. You can't think in order to do that, you have to, how do they think? I I can get into this environment. My key to get into it is to season identity. Once I'm in, I'm going to move on this network, and this network can go anywhere. It's like, are you tracking that movement? You understand where they might be, what behavior they might do next, what exposure they might exploit, right? And get ahead of it and turn the tables on them.
Yeah, and the Credential's best backdoor into an organization. That's where we've seen that's the initial foothold for so much ransomware. It's just a mistake.
It's just funny how it's almost back to the fundamentals of like you had mentioned, the network. It's like, who or what's on my network? Can we answer? And I agree with you. It's like if you ask 100 CISOs, do you know right now who or what's on your network? And one might say yes, and that person would be lying because nobody really knows. It's like,
Yeah, exactly.
and the closer we get to like grounding ourselves in understanding that, I think the better we're all going to be from, versus an attacker, or building resilience over time to how emerging attacks and evolving attacks.
Yeah, and even if I'm kind of half jokingly saying a lot of these attacks haven't changed, as you point out, maybe they're just getting faster. There's still innovation. I'm sure you're still innovating too. So looking ahead, just the rest of the year, what kind of projects do you have in the pipe? What can your customers start to look forward to?
We will never stop researching
Yeah.
what attackers might exploit. And we've built a system where from the time we discover a potential means that an attacker will exploit or take advantage of, to the time we develop the AI ML, create the detection, and ship it to our customers, that's happening every 2 weeks. So as attackers are evolving, we're shipping detections to our customers all the time. So that's keeping pace of what they're doing. But the big thing is AI. It's like the big mystery of like, where are we investing now? The observability thing, the observability of AI agents on the network, the observability of shadow AI operating
There's
inside
the
the
other buzzword.
network.
Yeah.
Like just getting it, because I think there's a lot of, yes, the attackers are using it, but then there's just a rampant unknowns around AI and the risk it may pose. How do you use AI to get a better understanding of that AI risk? And we've been doing it for years, so it's like, hey,
Good to have that experience.
Yeah.
And that what's funny to me is also just because we were talking about the threat actors, malicious insiders, but it's also just so easy to make mistakes too. So there's a lot of reasons just to have the observability in the first place.
Policy violations. You start to look at different, detection of potential risk or threat events. And again, like I said, chaining them around an entity or an identity or a device. That's going to shrink the amount of noise you're getting going into the SOC because you're focused on entities, not threat events, from thousands down to single digits. But then there's also an understanding of where insider threats may be manifesting, or even accidental insiders. Like, oh, this person has observed privilege. They've never gone here before, or never done that. Why are they over here on the network? Do they belong in here? We're leaking information, or we're standing up an MCP server. I didn't even know who stood up an MCP server. Now, where's that data going? Like that, that's observability, and that's where you can be like get proactive and understand that's on the network. That's never been on the network before. Somebody stood it up, and there's data flowing through it, and we have no idea where that data's going. May have been good intentions, may have been not malicious at all, accidental.
But that markdown file is still
risk
doing
is
something
risk.
missing.
Yeah,
exactly.
Risk is risk.
Risk is risk. Well, of all this understanding that and observability that customers need, you've given us a great understanding of Vectra AI in the last couple of minutes. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
To learn more about Vectra AI, please visit securityweekly.com/Vectra RSAC. And for all of our SC Awards 2026 coverage, go check out securityweekly.com/RSAC.